This channel is made possible by viewers like you. My viewers, subscribers, and patrons greatly help to keep this channel going. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get access to what I'm working on, previews of upcoming content, and even early videos, along with other tier options for those that are interested. Thank you, and now on to the video. So Vice released an article last week targeted at gamers, more specifically at those who did not like and criticize the new Dragon Age game. The title of it made me laugh: Dragon Age, the Veilguard, and the necessity of games journalism. This is so pretentious and fits right in with the awfulness of the writing quality found within the new Dragon Age as well. If anything, this article further proves why big media is not needed, and how out of touch they actually are. But we'll get into more of that a bit later on. The article comes right out and says that this game is another example why players need games journalists more than they actually think they know. That statement I really don't like. It feels like they are talking down to their audience. You gamers don't know what you really want, but we, the more important games media, can tell you exactly what you should do, what you should play, and what you should accept in your games. Don't bother coming up with your own opinions. Just let us spoon-feed everything to you as to why you should play these games, and ignore your own personal feelings on a game, and continue to shovel in garbage being made by these failing big game companies. Not a great way to start out the article. Never talk down to your audience. I can attest that at least from my own awesome audience, they tend to have a great nuance and passion when talking about their games, whether for titles that they really enjoy or ones that they don't enjoy. Sure, gamers might have more raw-like opinions than what game journalists would like to see when talking about games, but when it comes from the fans, it's usually coming from a good place. These are passionate people that love this hobby, and big games media seems to be more interested in the messaging rather than entertaining. There is a part in the beginning of the article where it states, imagine a world where there are no video game outlets like IGN, Kotaku, or Polygon. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds like a much better world than we have right now. Remember, IGN was the website who gave Alien Isolation a bad score for half-baked reasons. Kotaku and Polygon have a history of placing a large importance on agenda rather than the quality of the game itself. As long as the messaging is that progressive nonsense that we keep pushing to those players, then the quality of the story, gameplay, and all of that doesn't really matter. Circling back to IGN, they gave Veilguard a 9 out of 10. Does this appear to be 9 out of 10 writing to you? Take a look.
So, I'm non-binary.
Rick, you clearly find talking about dragons boring.
What? How? Who doesn't like dragons?
So, I'm non-binary.
What does that mean?
I had big fingers.
Oh, but let's take a brief look at this part of the IGN review that gave the new Dragon Age a 9 out of 10. This reviewer found the non-binary and gender stuff to be a true highlight within the game, as it had realistic representation of the experience. As an outsider just seeing this in-game, these sequences and anything related to Tosh talking about or discussing the gender stuff makes it all come across as borderline parody. What makes it hilarious is that all of this is played straight, but the writing turns into accidental self-parody because of how silly, forced, and preachy it all sounds. Thank God we have IGN here, praising this type of writing that truly represents 99% of all gamers and what they want in their game, and more importantly, telling us what to think. Now, there is a part of the article that picks a random user review of Metacritic for Dragon Age, and it doesn't really give much information on the game, other than the fact that the individual didn't like the game. Vice states that this essentially is not useful to the reader, trying to grab any information about the game from those user reviews. Now, on the surface level, I can see what Vice means. Some of those Metacritic reviews and even Steam reviews don't have much discussed about the game itself. Some are just cheeky and, quite honestly, kinda hilarious. I think all of this stuff is useful for the reader, though. For me, I even look at some of this stuff as I'm trying to find more games that I want to play. I'm gonna go to multiple sources. That could be media outlets if you want to go that route, or you could just read multiple possible Metacritic or Steam reviews. Gamers are gonna tell you what they like and don't like. Those cheeky reviews that don't give much information on the game itself are funny on the surface level, and I appreciate them, but they also provide the reader with that feeling of how other gamers might feel about the game. You can usually still take some useful information away from them. Now what's worse is that Vice targets without naming names, talking about YouTubers who just attack stuff, like stuff related to the progressive agenda or force nonsense and all of that. Vice calls all of this noise and nothing useful. I would argue that we need people within this space to point this stuff out. It would appear that many big game developers are not listening to what fans really want, and through these YouTube channels, it's another way to be heard as a community. Personally, when I talk about this stuff, I will provide examples, and then break down why something is not good. I don't just slap a blanket statement on it and then provide anything further. I will elaborate so that I can try to properly convey my message to the viewer so that they can understand what I'm saying. I may not have this journalistic integrity that Vice is trying to gloat about, but I have self-imposed integrity to properly convey my stuff to my audience, because that provides a better video and information to my viewer. Vice then uses Baldur's Gate 3 as an example that no one pointed out any of the progressive politics and stuff that that game had. Sure, Baldur's Gate 3 was universally loved. Gamers really enjoyed that game from all different backgrounds. I think many gamers who dislike Dragon Age Veilguard that enjoyed Baldur's Gate 3 and may not even agree with the politics in either of the games boiled down to that Baldur's Gate 3 actually delivered on being an entertaining game. Many people can tolerate a lot of stuff in their entertainment, if the entertainment is then placed first. I personally have not played Baldur's Gate 3. I have a buddy who is currently playing it, and he told me he hasn't seen much of any of the stuff that was complained about related in that game to any of that progressive politics, because of the choices and characters he chose to interact with. Baldur's Gate 3 provides true player choice, whereas Veilguard pushes stuff onto the players, and lacks significantly in the player choice department. For a gaming article on the need of these quote-unquote important games media websites, it seems to forget the nuances of the arguments here. This entire article reeks of big games media trying to make a plea for their own existence. Maybe they see that their time in the spotlight is definitely dwindling, and if they continue to go in this direction that they are, they will eventually be forgotten as more independent creators will take up that space. I think many gamers do not feel represented well by these big gaming companies, and it's why many of these big companies have turned into a joke. And this is probably why Vice created a rather lackluster article with very little substantiation to sort of get a rise out of gamers to get that attention. And that is why we are discussing it here, so don't go to their website and give them any views. I do feel like with how pushy the progressive agenda has been in these bigger games, it really does seem like they are trying to force this stuff down the common gamers' throats. Plus, when you deliver something that lacks any interesting approach or nuance, like the stuff with Tosh in the new Dragon Age, this acts as the perfect example for gamers to then turn their back and go play something else. I'm not advocating for completely removing this stuff from gaming either. This is why we have the indie market. You can really cater to your specific niche, and if there is a niche of gamers that wants heavily progressive politics in their games and stories, then indie developers could make games to cater to that audience. But when you put it in a big game, meant for the masses, it feels really out of place, especially when it lacks any good execution. This is where many gamers just don't want this stuff anymore, and it always seems that the legacy IPs are the ones that are used to try and push this stuff onto us. Because I think partially these agenda-pushing developers would not have that high level of success if they created something original. No one would want it. This Vice article makes a poor and sad excuse as to why gamers still need big gaming outlets, but rather it makes a better argument as to why we really don't need them anymore. Plus, this article made a big mistake, thinking that they know better for gamers. Let me tell you, you got it all wrong from the start. Gamers know exactly what they want. They are a passionate bunch, and I am one of them. What are your thoughts on this Vice article? Are gamers wrong? Do we need outlets like this? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you can help to keep this channel going strong, and this allows me to be able to do more for my awesome audience. Please check out the links in the description and pinned comment for ways to support the channel. And most of all, thank you very much for watching.